안녕하세요.
안녕하세요.
한국어 선생님 장윤옥이에요.
Gerhard예요. In today's lesson, we will learn how to form our first Korean sentences by understanding Korean verbs and how Korean sentence structure works.
Let's go. 가다,
가다 means to go,
오다,
to come,
먹다,
to eat,
공부하다.
to study. These verbs are in their infinitive form. In Korean, infinitive verbs always end with
다. 가다, 오다, 먹다, 공부하다.
Before we can use these verbs in sentences, we need to conjugate them.
Let's look at some examples. 가다, 가요. 가다 becomes 가요 in the present tense. 오다, 와요. 먹다, 먹어요. 공부하다, 공부하다 becomes 공부해요.
So how do we form these present tense verbs? Why do we have multiple examples? The present tense always ends either in ayo or in oyo. Kayo ends in ayo. Wayo also ends in ayo. Mogoyo in oyo.
Let's start. So, 가다, to go. We have to remove first 다 from the infinitive. So, 가. And look at the last vowel. The last vowel is a. So, if the last vowel is a, we add ayo. So this is a. So we add ayo. Right? Ka, a, yo. Ka, a, yo. But having two a vowels together is redundant. So we simplify 가요 to 가요. 가다, 가요. 가다, 가요. And 오다, to come. 오다. We have to remove 다 first. 다. And look at the last vowel. The last vowel is O. O. If the last vowel is A or O, we add always ayo. So the last vowel is O. So we add ayo. O, a, yo. O, a, yo. O, a, o, a, wa. So O plus a becomes wa. That's why 오다 becomes 와요. 오다, 와요. 먹다, to eat. 먹다. So we have to remove 다 and look at the last vowel. It doesn't matter if there is a 받침. Yeah. The last vowel is 어. If the last vowel is anything other than a or o, we add 어유. So, vowel. Anything other than a or o. Then we add 어유. If the vowel is anything other than a or o, we add 어유. So 먹다, 먹다. The last vowel is o. It's not a, it's not o. So we add 어유. 어유. 먹어요. Finish. 먹다, 먹어요. And 공부하다. We remove the and 공부하다, the last vowel is a. Then we add 아유. But 하다, the verb 하다 is an exception. So 하다 is an exception. So 하다 becomes 해요. 하다, 해요.
So we have three possibilities. The verb stem ends in a vowel a or o, then we add ayo. If the verb stem does not end in a vowel a or o, we add oyo. And the exception is that when the verb ends in hada, we add heyo. But what is hada? Hada is a Korean verb meaning to do. Many Korean verbs end in hada.
For example, 운동하다.
운동하다 is to exercise, to do sports. 운동 means sports or training or exercise.
Yes.
하다 is to do.
컴퓨터하다. Computer
means computer and hada is to do. What does that mean? That means to use the computer.
쇼핑하다.
Shopping means shopping. 하다 means to do. To go shopping.
노래하다.
노래 means song. 하다, to do.
So to sing.
So hada verbs always consist of a noun plus the verb to do. These verbs are actually handy because we only need to know how to conjugate to do to modify hada verbs. The noun stays the same, and we need to conjugate hada. For example, into the present tense, heyo.
Let's learn new vocabulary and practice what we've just learned. 가다.
To go.
가다, 가요. 가요. 오다.
To come.
오다, 와요. 네. 오아요, 와. 오다, 와요. 먹다.
To eat.
The last vowel is o, so we add 어유. 먹어요. 먹다, 먹어요. 쉬다.
To rest.
We have to remove the and look at the last vowel. The last vowel is we. Not a, not o. Then we add 어유. So 쉬어요. 읽다.
To read.
So 읽다. There are two consonants, but 그 기억 is pronounced. So 읽다. The last vowel is e. So we add 어유. 읽어요. 읽다, 읽어요. 하다.
To do.
하다 is an exception 또 해요. 해요. 하다 해요. 앉다. 앉다.
To sit.
앉다 has two consonants. ni은 is pronounced. 앉다. 앉다. And the last vowel is a. Then we add 아유. 앉아요. 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 기다리다. 기다리다.
To wait.
Let's have a look together. 기다리다. Okay. We have to remove 다 and the last vowel is E. Then we have to add 어유. 어유. 기다리어요. 기다리어요. But E plus 어. 이어. So 기다려요. So E plus 어 becomes 여. 기다리다, 기다려요. So 기다리다, 기다려요. 배우다.
To learn.
배우다. 다 is removed. And the last vowel is 우. Then we add 어유. 배우어유. And 우어. 네, 우 plus 어. 우어. So 우 plus 어 becomes 워. 배우다, 배워요. 만나다.
To meet.
Okay. We have to remove 다 and the last vowel is 아. When the last vowel is our 오, we add 아유. 단 만나아요. To are. Then to are redundant. Like 가다, 가요. So 만나요. 만나다, 만나요. 운동하다.
To exercise.
하다 verb becomes 해요. 운동해요. 일하다.
To work.
이래요. 네, 일하다, 이래요. 쇼핑하다.
To shop. To go shopping.
쇼핑해요. 쇼핑하다, 쇼핑해요. 컴퓨터하다. 컴퓨터하다.
To use the computer.
컴퓨터해요. 컴퓨터해요. 말하다. 말하다.
To speak. To say.
말해요. 말해요. 전화하다. 전화하다. 전화 means telephone.
전화하다 means to call.
전화해요. 전화해요. 공부하다. 공부하다.
To study.
공부하다. 공부해요. 공부해요. 노래하다. 노래하다.
To sing.
노래해요. 노래해요. 사다. 사다.
To buy.
사다. 사. The vowel is a, so 아유, 사아요. But 사요. Like 가다. So 사다, 사요. 사다, 사요. 좋아하다. 좋아하다.
To like.
좋아해요. 좋아해요. 네, 받침 흐, here this is silent. 좋아해요. 좋아해요.
Hada verbs are always composed of a noun and the verb hada. For example,
공부하다.
to study. 공부 means study. hada, to do.
운동하다.
To exercise. 운동 means exercise. hada, to do.
노래하다.
To sing. 노래 means song. hada, to do.
컴퓨터하다.
To use a computer. Computer means computer and hada means to do.
쇼핑하다.
To shop. Shopping means shopping and hada means to do. These verbs are convenient because we only need to know how to conjugate hada to conjugate all hada verbs. But attention, the exception with hada also applies to words that end in hada, but where hada does not mean to do. For example, 좋아하다 means to like. 좋아하다 ends with the two syllables hada, but in this case, 좋아 is not the noun and hada does not mean to do. Instead, 좋아하다 functions as a normal verb, not a hada verb. It ends in hada, but it's not a hada verb. You can learn more about the exception for irregular verbs and adjectives ending in hada by checking out our playlist on irregular Korean verbs and adjectives. Not now, but sometime later during your Korean language learning.
Let's make sentences.
As you know, the verb is always at the end of the sentence.
선생님이 와요.
The teacher comes. 선생님 ends with a consonant m, so we add the subject particle e.
게르하드가 공부해요.
Gerhard studies. Gerhard ends with a vowel, so we add the subject particle ka. You already know the subject marking particle ika. You also know that the subject particle is often replaced by the topic marking particle 는. For example, when answering a question like we learned in the last lesson, or when introducing ourselves like we learned at the very beginning of this playlist. But in this example, 선생님 is the subject and e is attached as the subject marking particle. Without the subject particle, we could still understand the sentence, and particles are often omitted in spoken Korean. However, if sentences are long, it can be difficult to understand without particles. In short sentences, sentence structure is always subject, object, verb. Sentence structure doesn't change, but sentence structure in general in Korean sentences can change, especially in longer sentences. And sentences sound better with particles. Moreover, we should learn Korean properly from the beginning.
Always with particles.
Always with particles.
There's an exception with the subject particle and the personal pronoun 저.
저 is I.
Yes. When we use 저 with the subject particle 가, 저 always becomes 제. 저가 is incorrect. 제가 is correct.
제가 instead of 저가. So I study would be 제가 공부해요 and not 저가 공부해요. Can we also say 게르하드는 공부해요 as a question and use the topic marking particle instead of the subject marking particle?
Of course you can. 은는 can often replace 이가. Therefore, 이가 and 은는 are often interchangeable. But we will learn the difference between them in later lessons. For example, in lesson 24, when we learn how to use 은는 to make comparisons, or when we have a detailed comparison of 이가 and 은는 in lesson 41. In this lesson, we will practice with 이가.
이가. Then let's look at some more examples.
황요한이 가요.
황요한 goes.
바네사가 일해요.
Vanessa works. 황요한 is a man and Vanessa is a woman. Korean verbs remain the same regardless of whether the subject is male or female and regardless of the person speaking. I, you, he, she, we, you all, and they all use the same verb form, which is very convenient. Today we have learned how to conjugate Korean verbs into the present tense using ayo and oyo, depending on the last vowel of the verb stem. We have learned the exception with hada verbs, which become heyo. We have also learned the use of the subject particle 이가 and the exception where 저 plus 가 becomes 제가. And one more thing we've learned is that Korean verbs remain the same regardless of the subject's gender or person. Understanding how to conjugate verbs is a significant step in learning Korean.
By following the rules we've discussed, you can start creating your own sentences.
Thank you for joining us today.
고맙습니다. 안녕히 계세요.
안녕히 계세요.